All right, here we are for week 8 of live coding on the GDAX project. And just how we've started most of these projects, or most of these videos rather, if you can't hear me or something looks strange, just let me know. It's hard for me to make sure that everything looks good for everybody. There's a lot of things I got to remember, so if I've forgot anything, let me know now. Let me fix it before we get started with anything. All right, so for this project, what we've been trying to accomplish is creating this screen right here. And what you see here is people are trading Ethereum tokens for dollars. And we have people who want to sell them up here, how many they want to sell, and at what price they want to sell. And down here, we have people who want to buy, how many they want to buy, what price they want to buy. And then over here, whenever there's a match between somebody wanting to buy and sell, it comes over here to the trade history side. And then there's a price chart in the middle. And if you click on this depth chart button, it'll show you the order book. So this stuff over here in a graphical format. So see this steep red bar coming up right there? That's this 914 or so order. And then you can see this 100 or so. This green one right here is a lot smaller. Ooh, and that 900 one just went away. And it looks like, yeah, we can look at the trade history. There weren't 900 bots. So whoever had that 900 right there, they just took it off the order book. So that's gone. So that's what's going on here. And woo, I sound good. All right, so let's look at the project. And first, let me check here to see if there's any questions. Nope. And yeah, nice music. So the music actually is done by one of the people who works at Treehouse, Chris Zabriskie. So this is what that is, if you're curious. And let's look at the app. I've already got the emulator started this time to give us a... Last time I had a little bit of issue getting the emulator up and running, though this time it's here and should run easily. I clicked that, didn't I? All right, so we've got our first spinning wheel of no goodness. Let's see what's going on here. We might have lost Android Studio. All right, well, if we've lost Android Studio for the time being, let's talk about what we're trying to do here. And what we finally gotten to is we've finished the trade history page. So this side over here, we've got, it's done. And about the only thing we're missing here is we don't have a title row and we don't have arrows next to anything, and we're not bolding the since column. So I mean, if we wanted it to be exactly like this, those are the only changes we need to make. But other than that, we're done with the trade history section. So what we're trying to do in this video is complete the order book section over here, which is a lot noisier, and I'm pretty excited to see how that all turns out. So what we've got already is, and actually let's start with this. The GDAX API actually tells us exactly what we need to do to get a real-time order book. And what we've already done is send the subscribe message for the product of interest, which in this case is Ethereum/US dollars. And then we have any messages that we've received from the WebSocket stream. So we've done these two steps, and we've done them by taking these messages. So there's, I think, 5 different types of messages that you can get: received, open, done, match, and change. And there's a couple others that we're not concerned about. But so we're receiving all of these messages and putting them into a bunch of different tables using the new Room API, which is really cool. If you haven't checked it out, it's a lot easier than using databases before Room. So we've got all these messages coming in from a WebSocket stream, and now we need to get the REST request to get the orders that were already on the order book before we came into it. So when you start your app, right, it's going to start receiving all the new orders, but all the orders that were there beforehand, we need to pull those in and create this new order book. And then we're going to need to keep track of all the done and matched and changed orders to update that order book as well. And it's going to be fairly complicated, so I'm kind of excited to see how it works, how it all works out. And let's see, Android Studio, not looking like it's coming back. So let's get pull up the activity monitor here. Okay, yeah, it's not responding. That's true. And let's force it to quit. All right, Android Studio has been killed. And that specific version of Android Studio is the Canary build, and that's actually living in my download folder. So right there. So get that opened back up. And as well, we can get open the library that we're going to use. So it's called Fuel. And Fuel is, I mean, it's just a godsend for doing anything HTTP related. It makes everything really easy. It's basically a Kotlin version of what you would, what you'd expect Kotlin would be able to do with a networking library. So it's just a really cool library. It just makes things really easy. And let's see how we're doing on Android Studio. Cool. So this is what we need. Yep. And is the emulator still running? That would be nice. Yep, emulator is still running. Let's see if once this gets all loaded up, if we can grab that emulator and just check if there's any questions real quick. Cool, so Crazy YouTuber asks, why Kotlin? Yeah, great question. Kotlin was recently announced to be fully supported by the Android team. So that's, one of the reasons that we can get away with using it, but also Kotlin's just a lot nicer language than Java. It's syntactically a lot easier to use and has a lot of good features that make writing Android apps just a lot more fun. So an example of that is, I think this is one of my favorite methods, is this method right here, which I know I showcased at the end of the last video, so apologies to anybody who's seen this before, but this is an extension function on any, which is like object, and extension functions is something that Java doesn't have, as well as I don't think you can have default parameters. So this is saying if you don't provide a parameter, it'll say that. And then this will log on the error channel the class name of whatever class we call it from. Then it will log a couple characters to make it easy to find, and then whatever message we want. So instead of logging, let's see if we can find it and use, actually to do that, we can put our cursor on it and use Command B. And there's a lot of uses. So again, so to log something, you just do E and then what you want to log. Super simple, a lot easier than using log.e, adding a tag, having to create a tag constant, all that nonsense. So yeah, just one example of where Kotlin really shines. As well as this up here, you'll see that these are package level variables. So these variables have package scope. So we can use this green anywhere in this package and it'll be this color. So that's another easy way that we can use Kotlin. And also notice there's no semicolons. So that's another, probably saves you 10% of the characters you need to type. 5 more like it, but okay. Let's see if we can get this to run now. It should pick up that the emulator is already running. We hope. All right, so let's go ahead and open a stable Android Studio. Because we might need to leave this canary stuff behind. So open an existing project. We can get that opened. And let's check the activity monitor to see if it says it's not responding. Yep, it is not responding again. So, is it responding now? No, it is not. So I'm gonna go ahead and kill that and we will fall back to regular Android Studio rather than the canary version. None of these things should be issues. So it's failing to sync with Gradle there. It's really fantastic how something always seems to go wrong once the stream starts. Not before, just once it starts. All right, well, maybe we'll give the, go back into downloads, we can give the Canary version another shot. Except importantly, let's close this because this should just work. There's no reason this shouldn't be working. We'll get that open, and we're going to close the emulator. Maybe having the emulator open is causing us a mess. So, yep, close that emulator. So if you didn't know, this is the emulator. Yep, there it goes. All right, that's been closed. Okay, so now this is gonna run, gonna build, and we should be able to have this run. Though in the meantime, we can check out the fuel library some more. So just to show something you can do is, I like this fold function. This is actually really cool. So you can call it get on something and get a response as a request, response, and result. And then depending on what the result is, you can call this fold function, and what you pass into that is two different functions. And the first function that you pass in, this lambda right here, tells you what you want to do if it was successful. And you do this one if there was an error. So it just makes it easy to kind of split your code up in that way. And another cool thing that you can do with this fuel library is, so where did we go here? So see, here we have async mode. So this is, you know, what you're used to with your networking stuff, but you can also have it block. So if you do it like this will wait until it returns and then continue. So there's also a synchronous version here, which can be useful, especially with coroutines in Kotlin. Though I don't know that we'll use a coroutine, but they are really cool. They're basically, a coroutine is like a very, very lightweight thread. And if you search for the docs for coroutines on Kotlin, one of the examples they use is just spinning up a ton of threads to do something versus spinning up a ton of coroutines. And with the threads, I think they got a Stack Overflow error or some other error once you've created enough threads. But with coroutines, they could just keep creating them and creating them and creating them. So coroutine, just think lightweight thread. And I think if you have the opportunity to use a coroutine instead of a thread, probably a good idea. Okay, so we're going to see if turning the emulator off, or rather closing it, is the solution that we needed here to get this to run. I don't have any insight as to why that would be, but you know, it didn't work twice just trying to run it with the emulator open, so close the emulator and see what happens. In the meantime, check if there's any questions and chat. All right. And actually, just another thing to show, in our app as it is, which hopefully if it runs, we are using a navigation drawer that you can pull in from the side or click on the top toolbar to show the different view options, which I think currently is set to trade history, orders, and charts. But let me see if I can pull this up. The GDAX website, I don't know if we can see this, but its website actually uses a bottom navigation drawer, or not drawer, just bottom nav on their web page there. So as far as mobile web pages though, this is, the GDAX mobile web page is probably one of the best that I've seen, and there really probably doesn't need to be an app for it. But luckily we're not here to, you know, create a GDAX app for GDAX. We're just trying to learn how to program. But what that means is that since they're using this bar at the bottom, and see they've, at least I hope you guys can see, but it's got these different tabs, and when you click on them, it does those things. I think that's a really good way to do it, and ultimately I'd like to refactor the project away from a navigation drawer and to the bottom navigation like they're using here. One, because I think it works really well, and two, because the scope of this project is just to try to do things kind of exactly how they do them. It keeps it nice and on track, so that'd be a good way to do it. So here we've got the emulator up. we can see what we've got here, and you'll notice that these prices say 195.68 and whatever else. That is from last week, so it hasn't pulled in any new data yet, which is fine. It does sometimes lag a little bit behind what you'll see over here in the trade history page. So when we click over here, we can come in, we've got trade history, which should toast trade history and then show this. Then we've got order book, which should show our order book fragment, which you can see right here says hello fragments and black text, which is not the best choice, but again, this is what we're going to be working on today, so we'll fix that. And then charts, I don't think there's anything here. In fact, it just shows the orders fragment again. So, all right, here's the app, and what we're going to be doing is pulling in order book data and displaying it here, which is a little bit difficult. All right, so first thing we need to do is figure out what we want this layout to look like. And what makes that difficult is that here, it's not like the trade history section. So the trade history section is just up and down, just use recycler view, really easy. You can scroll through it. But this order book section has kind of two up and downs. There's basically two recycler views, which is a little bit confusing, but I'm thinking maybe we'll try this. I think first approach, we're going to try with one recycler view. We'll put a bunch of stuff on the top here, and we'll try to get this stuff in the bottom, and we'll try to just order it such that, and maybe we'll be able to bind a view in the middle that's actually a different view. We'll have to start working on it to see how that works out, but I think this side is a fair bit more complicated than this side was. Though the first step is let's just try to pull in the order book as it exists using a REST API. Cool, and Aditya asks, what is the app about? And it's about this. We are trying to make this in mobile. And why we picked this is because it's complicated. This isn't something that's going to be easy. And yeah, I wanted something that we could really chew on and work through and just kind of not work on something trivial. Also, it's more fun for me that way. All right, so let's get to the code here. And we have our orders fragment. And I think the first thing we're going to need to do is we're definitely going to need to pull in the fuel library. So let's see what they say about that. Might need live data. That might be good to have. But let's just start with this Android section and make sure we have repositories JCenter and our build.gradle. So this should be the apps build.gradle. Repositories JCenter. Okay, good. Then here. Oh, there's a lot of things in here. Let's do it right there. And we need to figure out what latest version is. So it looks like prepare for version 1.9. So maybe it's not version 1.9. Oh, release version 1.9, 17 hours ago. So there you go. This is a very, very updated project. So that's really good. So latest version is 1.9. Then let's sync this project to get the fuel library coming in. And while that's syncing, I'm going to come over here and look at the API reference because we need to figure out how to make this REST request for the order book. So it's not messages. We don't need this WebSocket feed section. See if we just search for REST. It's going to give us a bunch of results. Is there a... Okay, here we go. So REST API has endpoints for account and order management as well as public market data. So it looks like this. And we're going to need to deal with pages and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so earlier when we set up, and I think one of the first several videos, the WebSocket stuff, we were here. and WebSockets, and we had to deal with learning about all these different message types and going with that. So now we've got the WebSockets. We need to pull in some stuff from the API up here. So let's set that up as a test, because that's going to make it a little easier to run, or really just test what's going on. Okay, so this failed to resolve. Fuel 1.9. So let's see. Let's go here, because I know I use this in this project, so we can see what fuel version I used here. Fuel 1.4.0. Oh, does it want another? Is that what it wants? 0.9.0. Try that real quick. Sounds like if they just did 1.9, that they'll probably have something before, after 1.4. But publish new version 1.4 in the license. 1.9. It looks like it should be on 1.9. But if that didn't work, okay, so that worked. We needed the 0.0 there. All right, now let's go over to app, Java, test, because we're going to create a regular test, not an Android test. An Android test would be a test that or an instrumented test is a test that requires an instrument. So in that case, they're referring to an Android device. So if you require an Android device to test something, so usually that'd be because you need a view, like you need to test a recycle view, you need to click a button, something involving the UI, or maybe a service, then you'd want to create a test here. However, we just want to get set up and get started with pulling in data from this API and make sure we're doing it correctly. So we'll just use a regular test, and it'll run really quick without having to do anything else. And actually, let's just pop in and use this guy. Great. So, and so you know what? No, I don't want to do it in. So this is going to be a class API test. That'll be fine. Yep, add it to Git. Then we need at test. Which we need to import. Then function run test. And assert true. Then let's test our test real quick just to make sure I've got this all set up. It's been a while since I've set up a test, especially in Kotlin, so I want to make sure there's nothing funky going on with the annotations or just anything else here that I've missed. Sometimes I also use tests as sort of a test ground for running code that doesn't require Android. So I'm not so good at setting up projects in IntelliJ IDEA. So sometimes if I've just got an Android project up and I just want to run some code really quick, I'll just throw a test in it and then put that code in there and see what happens. And you really shouldn't need to build to run this test. That's sort of the point. Did I click run instead of here? Nope, this is doing the test. That does not require a build, or shouldn't require a build at least. All right, well, while that's doing something, let me pop over and see if there's any questions on what we're doing. Awesome. So then let's come in here and we can okay, there we go, test ran. And now if we run it again, I just want to run it again because it really, the whole point of doing the test was that we didn't want it to build, right? Okay, good. So we're not going to take forever to run tests, right? Because you don't want to be testing your API by actually running the app, because in Android it takes forever to run the app. So we want to be moving a little quicker than that. All right, so let's grab that API that we need. It is this, and we'll save that as endpoint. And then All requests and responses are JSON content type and follow typical HTTP response status codes for success and failure. I guess it's good that they say that, though we would expect that it would be typical stuff. So here's an orders. Let's see if there's an example somewhere online that could be a little quicker to get started. GDAX API example. This is where we are, so I don't think that's going to be quite. Actually, wait a minute. We click on that. Okay. So the only reason I'm questioning this is it tells us what to call, but how do I specify that we want the Ethereum /$ price instead of something else? So if we use this, where'd it go? If we use this orders thing, how does it know which one we want? Okay, so let's go to requests. Okay. Well, we can just call that and see what happens. Let's do, all right, we've got that. So endpoint.get. Let me look over here. .http get. Then, and we do need to import fuel, and let's just import fuel star. Let's just copy the rest of this. Okay, then we need to import result from fuel and get as. Okay, so let's just do result.star as well. Okay. Okay, so when result is, actually, no, you know what? Let's not do any of that. Let's just print request, Control D or Command D to duplicate lines there, and then response and result, and then it'll just be true, which is fine. We're not really testing anything yet. We're just getting a sandbox to run HTTP stuff. All right, it errored. Okay, so Android looper not mocked. So it's telling us that something isn't mocked. That means we're using something from the Android API that we shouldn't be using. Oh, goodness. Okay. So we might, it could be that this Android version here, okay, let's compile this one too. So that might be that the Android version uses something from Android that we would need, or that would be on the device, so that would be not possible to run. So let's actually comment out this Android line here, at which we'll have to bring it back later. I'm unsure if this is going to work, but if it does, I'll be a little, oh, okay, actually, yeah, that's the right run. It is set to our test and not our project, which is apparently called unnamed. But so this would be frustrating because then we'd have to change these depending on if we're running the test or using Android. So hopefully this doesn't work, but if it doesn't work, I don't know what to do about it other than actually run it. Okay, so it's got a build to pull in this new dependency. That's why we're building rather than running in just 3 seconds. Okay, so we are using an old JUnit version. Interesting. Definitely says 4.12. All right, so let's come in here, see if this says anything useful. Nope. And is this even a fuel error? It does not seem to be. But, okay. Let's try making this a test compile. Leaving that as compile. Running this again. And then hopefully, I think this should split it to be only for tests. We'll use this one. For regular compiling, we'll use that one. Example unit test, we don't need open anymore. Middle mouse click to close. So can we see the error that we had last time too? Because that was pretty interesting that we got a mocked error. I wouldn't think that it would be using something from the Android system necessarily. Huh. JUnit 3. Let's see what the internet has to say about that. Yeah, it looks like that's pretty common. All right, so it looks like still an issue. Okay. Let's oh, then it says Android Studio, it doesn't work. Okay. All right, so let's just see what happens if we go into our project structure, modules, dependencies stuff, which I don't think that's going to be our solution here. Shift A, structure, project structure, and project, Android plugin, yep, modules, dependencies, and what did it say here? Let's move JUnit to be before Android platform. So JUnit, I suppose we can just move that to the top. Oh, there's the arrows down here at the bottom. Okay, why do you stop? Can I only move it 2 at a time? That's awfully frustrating. Okay, there's that. So JUnit's at the top. Maybe that'll fix it. Okay, and so it didn't cause any issues with Gradle. It still built the project, and everything works fine with that. And for the test, alrighty. Okay, so let's do this. So if you're, let's pull that in here. There we go. Ugh. That's just a mess. So let's see if there's a fuel thing for this. Not really. That's really frustrating that we're not able to test this somehow because we're using Android at some point. So see here where this call presumably uses something from the Android environment. I was expecting this to not use anything from the Android environment and we'd be able to run tests quickly. As it is, it doesn't look like that's quite the case. And I thought this would use the, where is our, get rid of you, minimize this. So I thought we would be using the test compile, this one. So let's try not compiling this one. And I'm not sure what happened to our file here. It's got everything all messed up. So these comments all came after these, and we've lost our spacing, which is strange. So let's get these back in. So these Enco ones together. Okay, HTTP is separate from the Arch stuff. Constraint layout, I guess, is even separate from all that. And get that out there. Okay, so now we are only compiling the JVM version of Fuel, which presumably doesn't include any Android stuff. So we should not have a you need to go mock stuff error because it shouldn't be trying to use anything from Android. I'm not sure why that wouldn't have been the case first. But if this doesn't work, we can move our test into being a instrumentation test, which will require Android to run, which is super unfortunate. Okay, that's going 3.8 or later. Again, doesn't make sense. Okay, well, all right, let's put this into a different type of test here. Actually, let's first pop into this instrumentation test. Use app context, which is the name for class. Okay. Well, how about we just do this? We'll come into main activity. And let's put fun x. And we need our endpoint. Bring that over. That should all be fine once this is imported. Yep, this is fine that it's got two HTTP. All right. So over in here, we need to, let's just get rid of this. Bring this guy back. I can, I guess, get rid of that one if it's not going to work. And we're just going to make sure that this works at all. I guess while that's running, check see if we got any questions. Cool. Yep, that's going to be an unresolved reference. This is nothing. Add our call to X right there. Yep, okay. So then this is going to be HTTP get. All right. Response string. Looks good. All right, all done. Let's And then instead of that, we can use our E function now because we can use Android things like the log. So we'll run that. Darn, that's going to run the test. Sorry, we've got to switch this to be not the test. And then we can run it on the app. Or rather, we can run the app on the emulator. Got the emulator ready. Got my logcat ready. Gonna see what we get. These are from about a half hour ago. So you can see that every time I clicked the one of the options in the navigation drawer, we got a log statement that says switch fragment and then tells us what fragment it was. And we can see that we did use several. Each orders fragment was a new orders fragment, which is not ideal, but not something we're going to fix quite yet. Okay, so we are still building, which is why we really want this to work. I guess we can check out the docs here to see if there's anything that they mention here. Test. Special test mode for you. Okay, let's see what that's about. Maybe it's down here at the bottom. Request blocking for tests. Okay. But that didn't let me do it from a Java test section. All right, so did we run? Still building. Wow, we might actually have to solve that Java 1.8 nonsense. Because I'm not going to sit here and watch this build for 2 minutes every time we want to run just a something. That just doesn't make any sense. All right, let's go back let's get API test open because it looks like that's going to be pretty important. Okay, here we got it running. Let's look at the logcat. All right, so we got error 404. So we got a not found error. Cool, but it worked. You can see how easy the fuel library is, which is really, really nice. Though we need to see, let's come over here and let's try to figure out how we can get types. Rate limits. Okay, so the rest of this documentation was really good, but now I'm somewhat struggling to figure out how to use this. Endpoints, but what are the endpoints though? Like what? Bad requests, okay. Pagination. So I think we can put in /orders. So just since this takes a while to run, let's go /orders and then run it again because that's going to take a second. And then we can check out and try to figure out. So GDAX API sample. So presumably this Python client will have done things correctly. Let's see. I find that when you're looking at public projects like this, a good place to start looking for what they've done is the test section. So it looks like it's got, okay, so there's get product traits. So I think we're looking for that, which seems to be from client. So let's go into here. Is there a client? Oh, there's order book. And it gets the WebSocket. Authenticated client, public client. Okay, public client. Get. Okay, so this is helpful. We've got really good documentation. And it's got slash products slash something slash book level. Okay. So this should, I mean, this is what we're looking for. So slash products is a thing, so that should be here somewhere. Unless this documentation, haha, where is this? What section is this in? Orders, place a new order. I'd rather not place orders. Okay, so maybe this private section, where am I? Private, it's a new order, okay. Maybe this is what we need. Slash products. Aha, okay. Market data, that's what we needed. There we go. Okay, so what we want is slash example response products. Only the best bid and ask is returned. We want everything. So whenever we're polling for most up-to-date data, level 3 is only recommended for users wishing to maintain a full real-time order book using the WebSocket stream. Okay, so right, so if you want to have, so here we go. We're going to pull this products endpoint for Ethereum slash or dash USD slash book question mark and then whatever level we want. So level 1 would give us only the best bid and ask. So it'd give us this one and this one. And then level 2 would be the top 50 bids and asks, which is probably good enough for us. We can start with that. And then if we want more, we can always go for the full order book. Which we probably will want the full order book, but let's just stick it at the second one because I don't want to be calling for level 3 over and over and over again until we've kind of got things figured out, because they've got this abuse of level 3 polling will cause your access to be limited or blocked. So let's wait till we get things set up and then we'll go for level 3 there. So what we want to add is this. And also, we can see what orders returned, I think. Right, slash orders unauthorized. Okay, CB access key header is required. I don't know that that should be required for that, though. So let's run that and see if we get any level 2 order book. So then once we've got the order book, so this is going to give us the orders that are already existing. And then we've got the web stream, which is going to give us the new orders. And we put those together and we have an order book. So that's the goal. And while did that run already? Let's find out. Logcat slash orders. No, it did not run. 45. Nope, certainly did not run. Run. Go. All right, and then let's see if there's any questions while that's running. RG, you don't understand the topic. Could you be a little more specific? And I can try to help figure out what's going on there. And it looks like that ran. Yeah, it ran. Oh, wow, that's a lot of red. So back to the code, go into the logcat. And we got orders, and we have, see the body here that contains all of this stuff. So we got all the orders there, just a bunch of orders, a lot of orders. Should be 50 since we went with level 2. And so we can see that this third thing here says success and then has our data. So let's find a way to split that out. So that's going to be result, and let's use that fold stuff that we saw earlier, which is up here. Fold, And actually, while that's going, I want to get this running again because I really want this to show us, I want this to work. Be nice. Oh, darn it, we ran the wrong thing. Get that going. Okay, and fold. So we want to do result.fold. And data or error. And then if we look, let's see, ERROR, it is a fuel error. So let's log that. Oh, and actually we're doing this in the test, but that's fine. Let's update the test to match what we're doing here. So we'll grab this endpoint, put it in our test. I'm not optimistic that we're going to get the test to work, but we're still going to try. And then we can print line the error. And in here we'll have the data. So data, and I want to look at this project. So this was a LiveCoding thing I did for Kenneth, who built a feelings tracker app in Python and built an API for that. So we pulled down the API and built an Android front end for it here. And this project uses Fuel as well. So don't know where it uses it though. Okay, get thoughts, there's the URL. We needed to add a header, then we used Fuel, result.fold, and here's the stuff we're looking for. So get JSON array. Actually, let's just log the data first. So copy this and put it in here. So we'll see what data is, so we can see what the name of everything inside there is. And actually we can shorten this error thing to just it. Perfect. So it is going to be the error. Although that's a little tricky to understand if you're not super up on your Kotlin. So let's actually just leave it like that. That's fine. All right, we'll run the project again to show us what our data is. And then once we've got it, we're going to pull it into JSON and pull it out, or it'll be in JSON, and we'll pull it out into a better format for us. So probably a list or a map or something. And then we'll, I guess, throw that data into the database and then pull the database out as the UI. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. So yeah, that should work. And we'll pull it out by order ID and price and not closed, and okay. We might also need to clear the database when we start. A lot of moving parts here. Okay, so this ran, I think. Did we run? Okay, cool. So we have a sequence, and it tells us the number of the sequence. So why this sequence is important right here, this number, is this is telling us where the order book is at. So when we get the WebSocket sending us new bids and new asks all the time, it's going to tell us what number in the sequence those bids and asks are. So if it gives us a number like 522, we know that we've already got that one in our list here somewhere, or we would if we were pulling in all the data instead of only 50 of them. But so we want to use this sequence here to make sure that when we're pulling in data from the WebSocket that we're not pulling in anything twice. So this is telling us that at this snapshot in time, so being the however manyth numbered message right here, that anything after that will need to add to this to create a good order book. Okay, so let's see, we've got sequence, and then bids, which contains an array of a ton of data, and then there should be an asks too. Hopefully. Asks, there it is. So we've got bids and asks, and that's another array. Okay, so let's see how we can pull those out. All right, so we've got data. Then, actually, let's go here. It should be, okay, so it.object. Okay. So we've got data, which is a string, dot how result dot fold, and then it there. Okay, that's what we want. We want response JSON. We would rather deal with JSON than a string. That just makes sense. Don't need that. And then data here should, instead of being a string, is now JSON. So we can do dot object dot get JSON array or object, and then this be sequence maybe. So, and we'll see if all this works. We'll type it out. So val sequence equals that, and then we have val buys equals what does dot object do? I've forgotten already. Dot obj turns it from JSON into a, so what was it before? Oh, JSON into JSON object. Okay, whatever, I guess that makes sense. So let's do val JSON equals data.obj, and then we can do it like this, which just looks a little cleaner. And then this is going to be JSON.get array, JSON array of buys, and then we can command or control D to do this, and then no, it's called bids, not buys. Bids and asks. So that's just terminology. Bids is people bidding. So they're saying, I want to buy at price X. Ask is people selling. They're saying, I want to sell at price Y. So asks, and we're going to need to change that to bids or else we'll get a problem. All right, then let's log. Yeah, we can still log data. That's not a problem. So then we'll do sequence and bids and asks. All right, that's a lot of logging. There's an error somewhere. Oh, no, there's always an error in this file, actually. And that's, yeah, this frustrated me in the last video too. So you can set an ID to any integer you want, and that's totally fine. As long as it's a unique ID within the layout, which it definitely is. However, it's telling me that this needs to be a resource of type ID, which we can definitely do. We can come over here into resources, and I think, let's see, new resource directory. Can we make an IDs, or would it be values? I think it'd be values. I might have to Google it, but one of these, there's one of these resource directories. You can declare your IDs as resources and then use r.id, whatever here. But there's just more work. And really, at the most, this should be a warning, because it certainly doesn't stop the program from running, because it does need an int. So this is frustrating that it doesn't allow me to do my little shortcut. I mean, it does allow me. It just puts this nice red squiggly up here to make me think it's wrong, but it's not. Totally fine. You can set your IDs to integers. Perfectly okay. And did I hit run yet? Let's find out. No. Run. Please? Okay. And let's see if there's any questions on any of that. So what language is this? This is Kotlin, which is a newer JVM language, meaning that it runs on the same Java virtual machine that Java does. And what's really cool about Kotlin is that it's just easier to write, a lot more fun to write, a lot more expressive than Java is. But most importantly, you can write Kotlin anywhere you can write Java. And it's by JetBrains, the same people who make IntelliJ IDEA, which Android Studio is very much based off of and uses. And they created Kotlin because they were using Java for a lot of their IDEs. So they do like PyCharm and ReSharper and a lot of other, top IDEs out there. And they were using Java and they didn't like it. And so they made Kotlin. And they didn't want to rewrite everything. So they made Kotlin 100% interoperable with Java. So you can just use Kotlin anywhere you use Java and it just works, which is really, really awesome. And makes it very easy to slowly migrate projects from Java to Kotlin. You know, you can start with one new Kotlin class. You don't have to start over with the whole project. Really cool stuff. All right, here's trade history page, which we don't really care about at the moment because that's not what we're working on. All right, here we go. Cool. So we've got the sequence and the bids and the asks, and it looks like they're ordered and kind of the way you'd expect them to. So the bids start at whatever the closest to the center would be, and they go down. So 223.6, 223.58, and so on and so forth. And the asks start higher than that, obviously, because the best ask should be higher than the best bid. Otherwise, they would match, and a trade would happen, and they wouldn't be on the order book anymore. And then these go up. So let's start by just trying to display these before we try to update anything. So, but if we want those in the database, okay, so let's look at what we've got as far as data tables go. Done orders, match orders, open orders. So I think, let's look at the documentation here for open orders. And messages open. So the order is now open on the order book. This message will only be sent for orders which are not fully filled immediately, and remaining size will indicate how much of the order is unfilled and going on the book. Okay. There will be no open message for orders which will be filled immediately. There will be no open message for market orders since they are filled immediately. Yep. So when you place an order, there's a couple different types you can use, and a market order just says like if you try to buy 100 Ethereum and you do a market order, it's just saying I just want 100. I don't care what price it's at. But if you use a limit order, that's where you set a price, and you would get your order to show up on one of these sides of the order book. So like this guy with the nearly 100 Ethereum buy that I can't keep my mouse on is trying to buy at exactly whatever price that was, 222 and some. And it looks like it was right there. He got filled for 222.73, and he sold all 99.4 of his Ethereum at that price. Cool. Or rather, he bought because he was down here. Somebody else sold into him. Okay, so let's try to pull that out. So we're getting, as it's running right now, we are pulling the data in from the WebSocket. So with the open orders data, okay, so let's call clear database because we don't want any old orders in there. So if there's an open order that we haven't deleted or whatever, so let's just call clear database at the beginning right here. Okay, so clear the database, which is going to delete everything from all of our tables using a new thread. And in Kotlin, I think this is Kotlin. It might be Enko though. Let's find out. So this is Kotlin. So Kotlin gives us this thread thing. So you just do thread and then brackets, and ta-da, you're in a new thread. Super, super simple. All right. Do I need that in there? Sure don't. So let's get rid of that. Don't need these. This is, we'll get, and actually, so what's going on here is you say with, and then the received orders database access object, and then anything in the brackets after here is being done to this. So instead of having to type db.received_orders DAO.delete, and then in parentheses db.received_orders DAO.get all, you can just do it like that and use this. But since this is a little bit redundant, we can get rid of those thises. So let's do this, and then Command R to replace, and we're going to type this, leave that empty, leave in selection checked. Actually, we want this dot, so this dot, and then replace all. There we go. And we're not logging the database right now, but it looks like we've already done that all correctly. So no, nothing to get out there. Okay. So we're clearing the database. We've got open orders that are coming in. So, and what do we have for our layout file? We have this as the layout for a completed trade. which does look different than an open order. Kind of. So it's going to be pretty similar, except for no time column. So this is the same as this, except no time column. So it's going to be pretty similar. So we should be able to just copy this, create a new UI. I mean, really just take out the time column. So could we just set the time to 0? We could just use completed trade again. That would be pretty simple. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. First thing we're going to do is pull the data that we're getting from the WebSocket and display it in a recycler view. Then once that's pulling in and updating in the recycler view, we can update it or try to send in the data that we've gotten from the REST API. So let's check out trade history fragment, and I think let's just copy it. Oops. So copy all this, and then we'll see what we need to change. So, yep, give us a bunch of imports. Okay, so this is going to be this at orders fragment. And Control F, trade history. So we need an orders view model. What is in trade history view model anyway? Trade history view model. Okay, so we do need a new view model here. So let's create a new view model, new Kotlin Fowler class, and this is going to be open orders view model class, and then yep, add it to Git. Come over here, and we're just going to take this, copy it, paste it right here. Okay, and this is not going to be a match order. This is going to be an open order, and the matched order is there. So that should tell us where we need to change things. So open order, mutable live data of open orders, and then this is going to need to be open orders DAO, and load open orders DAO dot. Okay, so we are missing something there. So let's go into data, and we have our match orders DAO, where we used the load match order sync. So presumably, let's get this, gonna split this vertically and then close it on this side. Or not, I guess we'll just deal with that. So match orders, open orders DAO. So we need this function up top. So let's grab this guy. Oops. Grab that again. And let's paste it right there. And then this is going to be load open orders sync, and it's going to return a list of open order. And we want to select star from open orders, order by. Yep, okay, that looks fine. So then close these. And then dot load open order sync, perfect. Okay, and then what this view model does here, which is pretty cool, is we're saying that there is a trades variable that is immutable, and it is a live data of a list of open orders, and we're setting it equal to a new mutable live data of list of open orders, and then we've defined a getter. And what the getter does is if it has a value, so if the field behind this property has a value of null, then we're going to say loaded, let's go with open orders. And then we're going to set the field to this. And otherwise, we're just going to return the field. And what this means is that when we rotate the device or any other such thing, and it tries to get the trades again, if it already has a value, it's just going to keep that value. So we're not going to redo this a lot. We're going to do it once, and that's it. So for example, let's check out the logcat here. Come into here, and if we rotate the device, let's see, we got, okay, so it said loaded trade history, and if we rotate back, just hit again. Let's see, that was 1044. Okay, so let's just rotate it one more time. Yeah, so that is doing it again. Interesting. Was not doing that last time. So that actually might be because we're logging it in another spot. So that's in trade history view model. Oop, got to close the log here. Oh, so field must be null there. All right, so anywho, we've got that. We've got our open orders view model. Now we need to use it. So open orders view model. Not view model, just open orders view model. Okay, then it is going to be a list of open order. And for trades, it.map, and we need a new, let's see where this is defined. And our adapter, okay, so this is not my adapter. This is Shift F6 to refactor that, or we can go refactor rename to trade history adapter. Okay. And we're going to need also an adapter for our orders fragment. So this is going to need to be open orders adapter. Okay, so let's create that new adapter, and we'll pull in the open orders. Actually, it's been a lot of coding going on. Let's see where we stand. Yeah, what's the advantage in comparison to Java? I mean, you can do stuff like this. So there's no semicolons. We can do really simple lambdas like this. There is data classes, which are really cool. Nullability. So you can declare things as null, and you have to check that they're null and make sure. So it's really hard to get a null pointer exception in Kotlin and not know that you were going to get a null pointer exception. So that's a big win. Also, everything in Kotlin is an object. So there's no lowercase int class. It is uppercase integer. Same with Boolean. It's uppercase Boolean. And since everything is an object, that just means that they behave more like you would expect them to behave. So just it makes a lot of stuff easier. So like this syntax right here, we can take a list of open orders and map it to a list of trades just by doing this. So this turns our, and I guess since we copied this code from the trade history or trade history fragment, this is actually, as it's written here, referring to a completed trade. So we're going to need to change this. So, but first we need a new adapter. And we're going to need to refactor some of this other stuff because they're getting a little busy over here. All right, so what's this called? Open orders adapter. This is a class. Yep, add that to Git. Then let's try to do this without looking at the other side of the code. All right, open orders adapter needs to extend recycler view dot adapter, which takes in a view holder, which is going to be open orders adapter dot view holder, which doesn't exist yet. So in here, I'm going to have to check if this needs to be internal or not. No. So there is an internal keyword that you can use for classes, but doesn't need to be. So class, this is going to be viewHolder, which extends recyclerView.viewHolder. Okay, and then what do you want? Has a constructor, so add a constructor, and it wants an item view. So it looks like we need to pass in a view. So view, and then pass in that view. Okay, and we're gonna need to import the view class. And then this, let's Alt Enter, do whatever you want. Implement members, Shift and the down key to highlight all of them. Hit OK. Oh my goodness, why would we have these to-do stuffs? I'll change that later. It's nice that it gives you the settings for that though. Okay, then you want a constructor, so it's going to add those two little guys there. Perfect, so this is all set up. Now we need to, what order do I like these in? We did count, holder, and bind view. Okay, so first we need to define our data class of what we want to be here. So data class is basically a regular class, except when you print it, it'll print the properties of the class instead of like just the object. And when you do a comparison between, say, two trades, it'll compare each of these things to see if they're equal instead of comparing the objects. So for example, like if you had two playing cards, you had like the ace of spades and another ace of spades. Normally when you compare those two, it goes, those are two separate cards. But by using data class, it would go, okay, ace, ace, check, spades, spades, check, they're equal. So that's why we want to use a data class for this stuff, because we're not really too concerned about the object side of things there. As well as you don't have to define getters or setters or anything else for this. Just like we just got a one-line class there. How cool is that? All right, so we need to create an order class up here, which is going to be pretty similar to that one, but data class order, and it is going to have a val. And let's check up here. It's going to have market size and price. And my size would be like if we have any orders over here. But we are not, that's currently out of scope for the project. We would be so lucky to finish the project as it's scoped right now that we're not going to include signing in and actually trading or anything. And also I don't want to be responsible for anybody trading on here. That's scary. I want to be responsible for anybody losing money due to errors that I've made. So making a view only app right now, just like we see here. Cool. So let's do market size, which is a float. And then, what was it? It was price, right? Yep, price. Also a float. All right, so there's our order class. So then, and let's just call it open order, just to be more specific. And because we had that there, so then this takes open order as an adapter, we get our open order. So view model here is view model.open orders. So in our open orders view model as well, let's go ahead and jump in there with Command B and change this trades to open orders. ORDERS. Alrighty, and then oops, we need Control Tab to jump back. And then instead of trades, we want open orders. And we're going to observe the open orders with the orders fragment as the context. You know what, I'm pretty sure that's context, but let's double check. No, it is lifecycle owner. Okay, so this is a lifecycle owner because we have extended from lifecycle fragment. Then we're observing that, and we've got our list of open orders, which is what it is in this context. So then we have val, and why do we need to turn this into trades? Couldn't we do that back in the other page? Oh no, this is a live data list of open orders. Yo, that's complicated. Yeah, that's why we need to turn it into trades. Okay, so the fact that that is a live data list of open orders is a lot. So we want to turn that into just one thing of open orders. Actually, what do you say it is in here, huh? It is a list of open orders that could be null. That should be fine, actually. I don't know that we need to map that one necessarily. So, and here the adapter is an open orders adapter. So let's actually refactor this one. So refactor, rename, open orders adapter. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and change it in the trade history fragment as well to be a trade history adapter. Refactor, rename, trade history adapter. Great suggestion. Cool. Yeah, kind of frustrating that, I mean, actually, my adapter should be fine. I like it being shorter like that, but we'll just leave it like this for now. Okay, open orders. All right, we'll get back to the adapter in a second. There we are, orders fragment. So open orders adapter dot, and what we need in here is, oh, that's where we defined that class. So let's cut this, and we might not actually need it, but okay. Actually, we should need it. How is that? Orders view model, open orders, load open order sync, turns a list of open orders, which is this. Interesting. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. But let's get open order defined in here. And then for the trade history adapter, okay, so we have a list of open orders. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so val open orders and tab be a mutable list of nothing, and it's going to want to type for that because you can't just have a mutable list of and not, so we need to either specify a type here, which would be open order, and then, oh, that's not okay. Oh, okay. Well, either way, the correct solution is to put it right here. So open order. All right, there we've got a list of open orders. Then let's take this get item count guy and put it at the top to match what we've got with our view model class. And then in Kotlin, you don't need to do any of that. You can just return open orders dot size or count or whatever it is, size. Cool. And then let's see. Oops. Yep. Then we've got create view holder. So let's cut this one. I like to keep things in the same order just to make it really easy to navigate. Okay, and then we're going to need to create the view holder. So for now, we can actually copy, I believe, the same thing that we're doing here. And actually just copy these two functions. That's fine. So jump back to here, or rather here, and then do this. Perfect. So trade history adapter, this is going to be just view holder, right? Yeah. And just view holder. Perfect. And then what are you complaining about? Okay, good, nothing. And you are complaining about overrides nothing. Not true. Why would that say it overrides nothing? Oh, because of that. Go away. All right, good. So now that we've got our holder as this guy, I usually like to do it so that we have an update function in here. You could update it in here in this function, but I find it easier to do inside the actual view holder. So let's add an update function, and we'll want to pass in open orders at position. And we should be able to create a member function which takes in an open order. Perfect. And then, and here, we can grab the text views like this. Since right now we're just using this completed trade view, we might update this in a little bit, but we've written a lot of code here, so I kind of want to see if it runs before kind of doing too much. All right, so we've got those text views. We don't need the time view, so we can just copy this section, because this is all just for time formatting. And format numstring is a function we need, so we'll have to copy that guy too. Okay, and then format numstring. Which, actually, that's sort of general. So let's copy that out. Come over here, come into this exts file, which is kind of where I just put anything that needs to be scoped to the package. So anything I'm going to use a couple times, it seems just kind of general and not specific. So formatting a number string to be a string to a certain amount of decimal spots is sort of a general function, so we can, and then see it pulls in there, and we can even take it out of here, and everything just works really cool. Okay, so we need to see if the trade is a buy, and to make this view work, we need to write val up here. Perfect. And it's not a trade, it's an open order. And it doesn't have size, it has market size, which I guess they call it market size, but wouldn't it be? And then trade size. Okay, so if that's trade size, we don't need to call this one market size. We can just call it size. So open order size. Nice. Okay, and then that'll work. And then we'll just make everything green for now. So if, let's just go if true. Green, get that. Time text view. Who needs you? We'll leave that one empty for now. Okay, so there's open orders, which should show us open orders. Is this ready? No, it's not. Not quite. So what we want to do then is when we get open orders, we want to observe them and end the open orders adapter. When we get new ones, we will clear the open orders, and then we will add them back. Oh, wait, where did that trades come from? Trades. Where did that trades come from? Let's check out our trade history fragment. Oh, right. So yes, we need to get our open orders. So let's actually pull that back. And then here, it is a list of open orders, so it should be fine, right? Add all. It. Does that work? Yeah, I guess it works. So this requires a collection of open orders, and it has a list of open orders that might be null. So wait a minute, now you're saying list open order is a non-null object, and then here you're telling me that it is, and we can see it's list open order question mark, and that question mark bit under the found column there, or row rather, means that it can be null. Weird. Anywho, I guess we can just do what we did with the trade history fragment, take this section, come over here. How did I do that? Huh. right, well, go back where you belong. And swing over here. Okay, so then we're going to call this open orders, and it'll be it.map and open order. And then open order takes in a size. So we're using it in here. Yes. Open order it dot remaining size and it dot price. Required float, and we found a string. And this required float, and we found a string. So let's check on trade history fragment over here, and its size, Control B, is a float. So we'll need to update this table. But before we do, let me check in on questions. It's been a lot of talking there. Cool. Are we planning to do a Java game tutorial? I have not heard of that yet, so I don't want to say no, but that's more Craig's domain. So I'm not sure. Which language are you using and what are you creating? So we are using Kotlin, which is a newer JVM language, which is just a lot nicer to use than Java. So that is what we're using. And there is really good Kotlin tutorial on our website where you build a solitaire app, and that's probably the best way to learn it. But also the documentation on the Kotlin website is also super good. So if you're looking to learn Kotlin, just check out their webpage. And I think there's even like a try Kotlin. So let's see, try Kotlin. Yeah, so once this pulls up, in addition to our Kotlin resources, they have a ton of stuff you can work through over here to just see how Kotlin works. So really cool language. I encourage you all to check it out. I love it. It's definitely the way to go for Android. Yeah. And then what we're building is this. So this is people trading Ethereum tokens for dollars, and just all the trades that happen and all the orders that happen and what that all looks like. And so here's like a price chart to see what it's done over the past while. And yeah, we're just trying to make this in Android, which is a good challenge. Okay, so we need to change some of these, like, let's get this over on the right. Then we need to open up open order. Okay, see, these are strings, but we need them to be floats. So get that as a float. Get this price also as a float. Sequence is an int. Trade ID would be an int. Time is a string, that's good. Order ID, string, that's good. And these need to default to 0 instead of a string. And then to get this change to actually occur, what you have to do is come over here to database, or not database, which one is it? Or is it database, but I just can't see it. It is database, so you need to just up the version. So whenever you make a change to something in a room database, which is all these classes here, you just update the version, boop, and perfect. Okay, so now those are floats, which is good. And we need to add our open orders, which, why can that be null still? Oh wait, no, we want to add open orders, that's right. Okay. All right, so we take our list of open orders, which is going to be, not this, is going to be this class, which actually that's a bit sort of stepping on toes there, aren't we? So this would be match order. And what do we call that other one? Do we call it a trade? Trade history adapter. Yeah, we call this a trade. So that's got a nice different name. So let's come to open orders adapter, and let's just rename this to order, just so we don't have two open orders. So refactor, rename, order. Okay. So that way we don't have any issues with things being named differently. And I'm just going to close everything because there's too many tabs up there. All right, so open orders adapter, open orders view model. Actually, the view model's fine. Yep, view model's good. And then, okay, we got the adapter, and let's get the fragment up. All right, so that looks like it's doing something. Let's run it, see what happens. That is probably the most code we've written without running it so far in this project, so I'm optimistic, but it might have some errors there. Yep. All right. So too many are okay, so it was a little overzealous. I want this to be open order, not order. So it refactored this one to be order when we wanted this one to stay open order. So there is a good reason why we needed to change that name. And also it's going to tell us that these two are strings. We need these to be floats. So let's look at matched to see what they did. So we get toString and then call it .toFloat. So let's do that on price .toString, and then also on remaining size .toFloat. Did I write .toString? Is not what I wanted to do. Get string. Oh, .toFloat. Okay, so .toFloat, but what we need to do is instead of using the array access or whatever these brackets are called, we need to use the getString function to return this as a string instead of an any object, which I believe it is now. .getString. Actually, and let's check that. So if we did JSON of price, what are you? How can we find out? Let's do, what's a good method? There we go. Let's just copy that real quick just to see what type this is. Do that and then cut this out and we'll pass in JSON.price, or not .price, and then it'll tell us, so it is an any, not null. So yeah, this returns an any, and then normally we're just saying as a string. But if we want it to be a float, you know, we don't want to just cast to a float, we can get it as a string and then .toFloat. So we could replace all of these, I think, with the getString version here instead of the access modifier and then as string. But just a different way to do it. So .getString, and we'll pull this and then do that, and then no errors. Cool. So try running it again. And so this class, if you haven't seen this yet, this is where we are parsing the messages that we get. So remember there's 5 types of message. So we should have 5 functions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And so we get the type, we get the message that comes in as a string. Then we figure out what type the message is. And then we use a when statement, which is Kotlin's version of a switch statement, except it's cooler than a switch statement because it can also return a value. So like you can set val x equals when, and then, I mean, we'll just put 1 there, but then you could do 1, we'll set it equal to hi, and then if it was 2, we could set it equal to hello, and then it's going to give us an error because when you're setting it to something, the when expression must be exhaustive, which means you need to cover every possible example. So unless you want to type out every possible number, you'll do, although you can use an enum to get around that, but you'll add an else, and we could say goodbye. And then this statement will evaluate x to be hi. But so when statements are basically just better switch statements. Another pro of using Kotlin there. And so then we take whatever type the order is and call the appropriate read message, because they all have different little parameters. So for example, if you have a change message, then we have a new size and an old size, whereas none of these other ones are going to have a new size or an old size. So that's how we read things. We don't need a space there. Okay, let's see. It looks like it ran, right? Yeah, all right, there's trade history. That looks good. And then order book. Yeah, that looks good too. Again, we wouldn't, it's all green because that's what we have. And it's not ordered in any way. So this is just all the orders as they're coming in from the WebSocket. So first step, let's try to make these have some colors. Let's get the red color in there. And then obviously we're gonna need to find a way to split this into bids and asks and get that little thing in the middle. And actually I can just show that. That is right here. So, you know, we got to make this show up. So right now it's just every single new order that comes in is showing up at the top and green. So here we are, new orders streaming in, showing up at the top with a time that shouldn't be set. Whatever. That must be, I guess, what is in that view. Is that what's in that view? Let's find out. So layout, completed trade, text, and 11:30. So let's change that to be tools text. So now it won't say 11:30, but it will say 11:30 and our tools here, which is nice. So if you didn't know you could do that, that's really cool and makes things a little easier. We'll just hit run again to make that update while we are updating the colors. Okay, so here we need to be able to discern if our open order was a buy or a sell. So let's check out our open order data class. Open order. Open order. There we go. So this gives us a side. So just like our, where is the other adapter? Trade history adapter. Just like this adapter, we can use the side. Actually, I guess that wasn't in the adapter. Is that in the fragment? Trade history fragment. Yep, right here. So if the side is sell, so the first parameter of a trade is whether it was a buy or a sell. And if it's a sell, this is going to be true. So, right, because it goes one way. All right, so then we need to, let's get these guys next to each other. So C up here says is buy. So let's grab that and we'll add that to our open order definition, which is, or rather order definition should be in the adapter here. And we don't want to say is buy, we want to say is bid, because this is going to be either a bid or an ask. And then in our adapter, or not the adapter, rather the fragment, we need, and I have managed to pull you out again somehow. Okay, trade history fragment. Where is our other fragment? Close completed trade. Open orders fragment. And let's refactor, rename this guy to be open orders fragment, because that is the name we've used for these other classes here. So just to make sure they're all open orders fragment. And by keeping the names like this, it just keeps everything in line over here, so they're just easier to find. And just as a quick note, see how some of these are a C with, I mean, you can't see the C, but they're this little blue circle. That means that it's a class. And when it's this page with that turned ear, it's probably still a class, but it just means that there's something outside of the class. So for example, this is the trade history adapter class, but it also defines this other data class called trade. So it's kind of like this is more than a class. Or in the example of this file, there actually isn't a class here. It's just some functions and variables. So that's what that means. And this green one circle actually has an I in it, and that stands for interface. So you can figure out what's going there at a glance as well. Okay, back to an orders fragment. And now we need the first parameter here to be a Boolean saying whether it was a bid. So add a comma, space, and then in here, it dot side. And let's see what that's going to be. So we come over here, we can look at the reference, come down to messages, click on open, which we're already in. It's going to say side cell. So if it is side equal by, it's side equal by, then it will be a bid, I think. We'll see what happens when we run it. So then that's good. We've got those orders and we need to use it in our adapter to set the right color. And just to make it easy, we can look at this one and we say if it's a buy, so simple enough, if open order dot is bid, and I guess we can just rename this to order just because it's shorter. Order. Alrighty, cool. All right, so then we should get green for the bids and reds for the asks. And the way we can check, so they're still gonna be streaming in and kind of no specific order. I mean, really it's just gonna be in whatever order they've been placed, but that doesn't mean anything to us because we want them to be ordered logically. But so what we'll be looking for to make sure this works is whether green is the lower numbers and red is the higher numbers, right? Because the cells should be higher than the buys. So let's run that and then find out. And then while that's running, I'll pop over to YouTube and see if there's any comments, questions, concerns. Cool. Then let's jump back over here, get the emulator up, drink some coffee. And hope for no errors. All right, so we'll just, so it cleared the database, right? Because that's what we had to do. And now it's pulling in more of the trade history, which is all green. Let's check that, just double check. Yeah, this big section here is green, so we should see some red in just a second, right? Yeah, okay, there they came in. So it's always nice to kind of come over here and check. So we've got 14, 48, 00, right here, 22750 and 16. Right? Nope, jumped on me. 22750 and 21.91 at 0. So yeah, cool. So trade history is working. It's just behind this. That's just how it works. And that also, part of the reason that it could be slow, and just, I know we're looking at open orders, but to just cover this while I'm thinking of it, is that we're taking sort of a lazy approach to updating our adapter. So what we do is that every time there's a new order, or rather in this case, every time there's a new trade to add to the trade history, we're going to get a list of the trades and completely remove all of the trades from the adapter and then add every single trade back to it and then notify that the data set has changed. So this is not a delicate approach. This is very brute force, just remove everything, add everything back, and then refresh. Totally works though. But if we see issues like, we might be able to speed up so that this maybe matches this a little better. I don't think it's really that big of an issue because everything seems to work fine. But just to call that out, we can do better than that, though I don't know that we have to. All right, so let's click on the order side and see if we have green numbers being less than red numbers, and also if we have green and red numbers. That'd be great. All right, order book. So looks like the highest green numbers so far have been like 227 some. So the red numbers should be higher than that. And it looks like they are. Red numbers are like 228, 227. Some big orders. And actually check out this 402 one. I think that's maybe somebody just moving their order all around. So that might be difficult for us to deal with because we've got to handle people canceling orders, people changing order sizes, all sorts of nonsense that people can do with their orders over here. Just why I said in the beginning, this is going to be a difficult task for us. But check it out. We have got the orders. They are here. We've got the sizes coming in just right. Although these 402 ones making me think that's just one order that somebody's placed over and over. So, got all that. I guess next steps here is we'd want to order it so that we've got all the greens up top and the reds on the bottom. And just since I've just got 10 minutes left here, I'll probably go over because I always do. Let's try to close this out by getting maybe just the top 10 bids and the top 10 asks and showing them above each other. I think that might be a good way to do it. So at least, to show something so that we can look over here and say, we're doing something right. Which, I mean, we definitely are doing something right. And I don't think it's going to be exactly this because we haven't touched the rest stuff yet other than to prove that it works, and it does. So again, this data here coming from the WebSocket stream. So this is all new data. But if we want to pull in any orders that have been on the books for a while, we'll need to use the REST API, which we have set up, but are not currently pulling that data into the database and thus not pulling it onto the screen. Okay, let's get back to the code and see if we can split that stuff out. So what we need to do is in our trade open orders fragment, we're going to get all the open orders. Then we need to split them. So let's try doing it this way. Let's do bids equals open orders dot filter. Should be filter, right? Yep, filter on it dot is bid. Cool. So that'll give us all the bids, and then we can do this to get the asks. Is bid, except this time we want not. So that'll give us the bids and the asks. And again, here's where Kotlin shines. I mean, you can do this stuff in Java, but it's not this easy. And they've just given us so many nice functions here that just make things really, really easy, like map and filter. Just lots of good stuff. Okay, so bids, asks, now we need to get them in order. So can we just do this in a chain? Dot order. Dot for each. Let's see what we have. Slice, that's a good one. It's very similar to Python there with slice. So filter is not gonna, oh, group by, that's interesting. That'd be similar to what we'd have in SQL. Map, minus is good, or empty. Partition, wow, another good SQL word there. So if you're into SQL, looks like we've got a bunch of good stuff here. Sorted by, there we go. Wouldn't it just be sort? Anyway, sorted by it dot price. And then this will also be sorted by. Okay, so since we've got sorted by descending as an option, I think it's safe to assume that the sorted by default is ascending, which would mean that we're going to have small numbers at the top, big numbers at the bottom, which is not what we want. We want descending for both of them. So price by descending, and then let's use this again. Okay, then let's do, can I open orders. We're going to try to reuse open orders. We're going to clear it. What? I can't clear it. Open orders dot. Okay. Well, either way, let's do something else then. Let's do val new list equals, should be asks first, I believe. So let's do asks dot add asks dot, all right, what is this going to be called? We need to put these two together. Do we need dot to mutable list dot add? Huh. So can you not add unless it's mutable list? Maybe that's what it is. S.add. Yeah, so it needs to be a mutable list because right now it is not. So actually, let's just do this. Do to mutable list up there, which should kind of filter down and turn this bids array, or rather list, into a mutable list because we're starting from a mutable list. Asks.add. Nope, that's gonna still be a list. Okay, fine. Guess it doesn't filter down. All right, so asks dot to mutable list dot add and bids, which, okay, maybe add all. Okay, and add all. Do you return a new list? Add all. Inserts all of the elements into, and the specified collection, into this list at the specified index. Okay, so I don't know that we need to create a new list for this. Could just do asks.toMutableList and then add the bids to it. And then instead of adding open orders, let's add asks. And then let's see what happens. So, do I click that? Yeah. So my guess at what's going to happen here is we're going to have at the top of the list then is going to be the highest priced ask. So it'll be like, I don't know, maybe $99,000 or just something ridiculous. And then as we flick down, if it actually lets us scroll down, because remember this is going to be updating like every split second, we should be able to actually get to some bids. And then if we were able to scroll all the way to the bottom, see some bids for things at like a penny or some other price that is also very unlikely to happen. So I'm excited to see what happens. There's trade history. Is it going to clear like it should? Yep. So there's the clear function getting called. And then we should be starting getting new history starting at now, which is 58. So there's that. And all right, let's see. Oh boy. All right, so there's an ask for 374. Oh, and actually I lied. So the reason we're not going to see any of these coming in at like a super high price is because remember we're only using the web stream data right now. So this is only asks that have been added in the last like 10 seconds. So yeah, it's not going to be all crazy around everything yet. But so let's scroll through this, see if we can't get down to the mid-market price. 226. I don't think it's going to let me scroll because it just keeps refreshing. Right, this isn't working. Maybe if I just try harder. Okay, well, anyway, what we're going to do then, since that's not going to let us scroll, is add to this bids.take. Is there a take, right? That works. Yep, let's take 10. So by descending, take 10. So it's going to take. So if we're only taking 10 instead of all of them, we would want to take the top 10 bids and the bottom 10 asks. So we would just sort by ascending for the asks to take the bottom 10. Okay, so we should get 10 bids and 10 asks this way. And then we should be able to see something. And we could tackle that scrolling problem next week, which I'm not entirely sure how we would solve that, but I'm sure there's a way to do it. Probably not doing this right here. You know, probably. Actually, that's almost definitely the solution, is that we're going to have to fix this nonsense, which I like. This is a really easy solution. You don't have to keep track of which orders are new and which ones are coming on. You just replace the whole thing. Super simple. All right, so that ran, cleared, pulling in our new stuff. And then order book should have 20 things in it. All right, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, that's 10. What happened to our bids? Sort by descending, so we take the top 10 bids. Huh. So let's do this. We'll print asks and then ask.size. And then we'll do the same thing with bids. And then also, if we want to see what asks are before we modify that array, we're going to need to print it right here. So let's do asks pre and asks post. And this is another big pro to using Kotlin, is this string formatting. So if you want to print something inside a string, you just do that. And if you don't have to access a property of the object, so you could just print asks like that. But if you do need to access a property of the object, you need to include brackets. But all right, so there's that. Let's run this, and I'll check YouTube to see if there's any questions about what's going on here. Okay, good, that ran. Does Anko preview work for me? No, I don't think I've ever. Well, to be fair, I haven't tried Anko preview for probably a year. But a year ago, I did give up on it completely because it just wasn't working very well. So hopefully they get that better to the point where it does work, because Anko is really, really, really nice for prototyping. If you're making something more complicated and you need to use like a constraint layout or whatever, then doing it in the layout editor is probably the easiest way to do it. But if you just want to get something up and running, there is no faster way to do it than Anko. And at least for me, that makes it worth it. And especially because you can make views and loops. So like if you wanted to just make like a linear layout and just throw a bunch of stuff into it, you can just wrap that in a loop with creating a new text view in the middle of the loop. Really, really simple to do with Anko. And to be clear, you can do that with Java too. It's just a lot of code to create views in Java. And Kotlin then makes it a little better, but then Anko makes it really, really nice. Cool. So Lebanese Nostalgia asks, where am I getting all this scary data from? So this data is coming from right here. And it's just trade information for people who want to buy or sell Ethereum for US dollars. So Ethereum is similar to Bitcoin. So we could be doing Bitcoin, but I think Ethereum's cooler, so we're doing that one. We could also be doing Litecoin, which is another cryptocurrency. But what's nice about doing a cryptocurrency instead of something like Apple stock or something is, one, the APIs to get that data are free and easy to use. So if you've ever tried to use an API to get stock market data, it is difficult because they want you to pay a lot of money to use those APIs, which is just really not tenable for most people. So using a cryptocurrency API like this is nice, as well as the market for this doesn't close. So this is open 24/7 all the time. So there's always data here, and you could always have something to look at in the app. Whereas with the traditional stock market, it's only open from 9:30 to 4 Eastern time, which is, less useful, because if you're making something on the weekend, you'd have nothing to look at. That's no fun. But so with this, it's just, it's definitely kind of data overload, but that's what we're going for here, trying to make something hard. So did that run? Cool. Trade history, order book. Okay, so we didn't expect it to look different because we were just doing the logs, ask pre, ask post, 10, 10, 10. Huh. And we can see just how quickly that is refreshing itself over and over and over and over. So it is not adding our bids to our asks. That is a problem. And I wonder why that is. So if we take 10, what if we did something like, let's create new, so just call this list equals mutable list of, and it's going to be of orders. And we'll just create a new one, and then we'll do list.add all asks and list.add all bids, and then let's list one and list.size. Then we'll copy that. Oops. Copy that, paste it down here, and do list 2. And then instead of using asks, let's use list. Okay, and let's see if that fixes the problem. All right, so get our logcat up, jump to the bottom. Trade history got cleared. Hey, there we go, that worked. So we can just highlight here to stop it from scrolling. That's good to know. Though once this gets to the top, it will start scrolling on you again. But here we can see that lists 2 has 20 objects in it, which is what we want. So really not entirely clear why that stopped working for us. Maybe it has something to do with like adding this take 10. Maybe that limits the size of asks to 10, maybe permanently. I don't know. But let's just get rid of this. Do these log statements. Get rid of changing ask to that. Do that. And then that looks good. And let's check this with the real order book. Looks like an awfully big spread there. And it's right there. So we've got so I can scroll in here a little bit, and we got 10 of these, 10 of these. Looks like it's a little behind. I wonder if did that just jump on me real quickly there? Maybe in the past couple minutes. So is there a 74 at 227.5? Nope, that order has since been moved. And this should be updating as we get new orders. So there's some changes there. Oh, okay, so now it's 227.55. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit difficult to check over here just because of how quickly everything moves and because we're not pulling in the rest data yet. So if we look over the code here, back in, I think we did that in main activity actually. Yeah, this stuff. So we've proved that we can get the data, but we're not pulling any of it in, so it's not going to look exactly like the order book. So it's not too strange that this doesn't match yet, though I would think it'd start creeping up into this 229 section. Perhaps we're not deleting orders from the open orders section. Either way, those will be issues that we can tackle next week. So for the time being, we're gonna leave it like this. Made some really good progress on that actually. And let me pop over and see what else is going on. So Prashant asks, how do I remember all the helpful libraries on Android? Yeah, there's not really a good tip for that. Just you kind of watch other people do it. So I know when I found the Fuel library, which is awesome. If anybody wasn't here in the beginning, Fuel library right here, really, really, really good library for HTTP stuff and Kotlin. Makes stuff really easy. And I think I found it is let's see, Kotlin HTTP or network maybe. Yeah, so it is the first result for that. So sort of the easy way to find something is assume that it exists and search for it. So if you find yourself doing something difficult, like, I don't know, transforming times or any other such thing where you're just like, somebody's probably already done this, just search for it, see what comes up, maybe add in the word library. I mean, it's definitely going to be the first result for Kotlin HTTP library. Let's see if it is for networking too. Yeah, so there's just assume that it exists and go from there is usually the best approach. And if it doesn't, then you might be out of luck. Also, if you could post in our community, you could post on the Android Dev subreddit. There's lots of places you can ask people if there's anything that you're missing. But yeah, Fuel library, really cool, really up to date, right? Like, that's incredible. 18 hours ago, my goodness. But okay, so let me quickly jump back and just to look at this and talk about what we're going to do next week then. So next week, I think the plan is going to be to, number one, figure out what's going on here. So now that this has been running for a little bit, we have some bids here at 228.26 and some asks that are lower than the bids, which doesn't make any sense. I'm not concerned about the data quality, so I think we're pulling in the right data here. We're just, we're doing some nonsense with displaying it. So, like, only taking 10 of them is not really the right way to do this. So we're gonna have to figure out, one, how we can take all the orders, and then two, how we can make it so that we can scroll through that list without losing our position. And so we'll solve that, as well as we will find a way to pull in the data that's already on the books and add it to the database so that we can get our open orders section to match this open orders section. So, and I'm not sure we'll be able to get all of that done next week because that is a lot of work, but we will try. And let me just check one more time, see if there's any last questions, concerns, or anything. And then, all right, I will see you all next week.